Testing, testing, one, two. Take it to the streets. Take it to the streets. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're glad to be here today to present to you the Hybrid Hustler. We are so thankful for this opportunity to be able to discuss an amazing person that have caught the attention of this community. You know, when I first met him, he put a comment in the community post. I was like, I've seen this name before. Let me check him out. And I was very intrigued in what he do. You know, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, in our introduction, we want to bring to you a man that worked in corporate America. He was making 6-digit figure income, and he decided one day that wasn't enough for him. You know, he wanted growth. He wanted to be able to do more. And we're going to talk about that today. And he also is an entrepreneur as well. And he's also a content creator. And people beginning to gravitate to his message. He's also, ladies and gentlemen, a delivery driver as well. And he did some things that blow minds like landmines with his EBT. And I do research and case studies on EBT. To no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the Hybrid Hustler. Ladies and gentlemen, while we doing that, we want to also give this young man a round of applause.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for that warm introduction. I really appreciate you opening up the platform and having a discussion around not only DoorDash, but for Earn by Time. I really appreciate you doing this, and I'm honored to be on this podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure as well as a privilege to showcase and feature content creators such as yourself. You'll be the first that I will put on the Rising Gig Tubers playlist. That's doing great things. You're coming out there, man. You're doing it. You're doing it. So we're going to talk about your backstory. I got a few questions here. What was your occupation in corporate America, and what was it like working for corporate America? And why did you leave that job?
Yeah, those are good questions. Everyone always asks me, why would you leave? But let me go back a little bit. Ever since I was, I would say about 6, 7, 8 years old, I just couldn't wait to make money. There was something mental that I thought about, like, man, I just want to, maybe it was, I was looking at my father as like a role model, and
right.
saw that he hustled. He was always working corporate America. He took care of the 7 of us in the household. And so for him to see him, grinding every single day, he was really the sole breadwinner of the money in the household, and he's taking care of 7 of us. I guess I just took that as like a role model, and I wanted to be just like him. And so going right to the work environment was just right off the bat. That's what I knew I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do until later in life, but I definitely wanted to go to work. I just couldn't wait. So I had jobs lined up when I was 10, 11 years old. I was doing a newspaper delivery. Then I was in sales. I was in sales pretty much all my life, everything from retail sales to commercial sales, real estate, you name it. I pretty much done it. And I
Right.
just, in corporate itself, I would excel. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't have an ego into a respect, but I wanted to outperform and I was very competitive with myself. I just
Right.
wanted to move up and be the best person I could be. So, and that's what I did. Anytime I worked for a job, a W-2 job, my mindset was I want to be the best.
Right.
And whatever, how long I can get there, I want to make sure I get there.
Right.
I worked at retail sales. I worked for a major company. I'll bring it up, Best Buy. I worked at Best Buy for nearly 8 years, moved up to management level and worked in
Okay.
commercial sales. Yeah, in commercial sales, I mean, it's tough. My major client was in the East Coast. We have a cable company called Comcast or Xfinity. And, that was one of my major clients. And I loved working with people in general. It's totally different when you're in the retail sector versus commercial sales. It's a
Right.
completely different ball game, and I learned so much about working with people, networking, having a discussion. Not being afraid, having confidence, and I learned so much about that. So after sales, Best Buy itself, they were going through a big restructuring plan.
Right.
2008, and this is when 2008 into 2009 everything started going down, the housing market and everything else. So we had this huge opportunity, and the company said, "Listen, we just got to lay off a lot of people." So that was my first real experience of being let go from a major corporation when I really thought I was just excelling at the top level. Put a little damper on things because I really thought this was going to be my career job, and not only
Right.
that, I was looking to go to corporate, which was in Minneapolis. I went out there. I looked at the corporate offices. I saw everything that they were trying to do. I wanted to get in marketing, and I was just finishing up my degrees. And I said, "Man, I really want to work in a corporate environment."
Right.
And I was all gung ho about that until they let go. And I said, "You know what? I got to start a change." So I went to a completely different industry altogether, and I went to manufacturing. Now, this is coming from a guy who doesn't know much about, at the time, I didn't know the difference between most pneumatic tools out there. And,
Right.
when you say, give me a pneumatic tool, whatever it is, I'm like, what? Huh? I come from a sales background, not a manufacturing background. So
Right.
um, I went to this major, aerospace company. It's called Boeing Helicopters. They're one of the
Okay.
leader in not only airplanes out there, but for the defense military as well. So we built the Chinook and the V-22 aircrafts. If you know what they
Okay.
are, they're like one of the best defense military aircrafts out there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I had the pleasure to not only work on those aircrafts for the military, but no matter what your political opinions are, and I'm not going to bring that up here, but to be able to build and be part of Air Force One was an absolute honor to be able to do that. So to work on the president's aircraft, that was pretty cool. And so I put that on my resume as like, you know what, that's something I'm proud of. So I worked with that.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Um, I worked for that company for 8 years. And that was another company where I thought I was going to really move up the ladder. My goal at Boeing was to move up on the corporate end as well. And nice thing about that
Hmm.
company is that it's really centralized, located in Pennsylvania. And so I was going to work there, really on the marketing and communication side. And I wasn't the typical union guy. I brought it up in one of my past videos that
Right.
the major reason for me was I wasn't like I wasn't your typical union representative. Where, no offense to anyone, I wanted to be on the corporate end. That was my passion, right? And so
Right.
unfortunately, the company did not see me in that same regard. After
Hmm.
getting all my degrees, I was really trying, and I gave myself 5 years. I said, let me see what I can do in 5 years. It became 8 years. And I still wasn't, at least in my opinion, I don't think I was getting the respect that I thought I
Okay.
would get at that
Okay.
level that I was, at. So I said, you know what? Let me make a decision of what I want to do with my career. And at that time, I just wanted to quit. I just wanted to say, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this. But at the same time, I knew financially I just couldn't just walk away. So what I had to do was coming up with a long-term plan on me getting out of my W-2. And that's when I started my business. And we'll talk about small business and what I started there. But once I started that business and once I established, like, hey, there's money to be made here, and
Right.
I was happy with it, that's when I left my W-2 job officially. And I came back to corporate America. I worked for AT&T. You always see me with the jacket on, the AT&T jacket. I love that company. I really did. I think the company was fantastic. Unfortunately, in the sales end of things, I'm not gonna put it out there and sugarcoat it. Basically, I was kind of told to do some unethical things that I just wasn't. I wasn't involved with that. I really didn't want to be part of that anymore. I'm not so young anymore. When I was in my 20s,
Right.
maybe I would have done things I probably shouldn't have because I was naive and I just didn't realize the
Right.
consequences, And as I
Right.
was getting older, I just didn't like that anymore. And I didn't like that type of mentality of, being a little unethical. So on my own terms, left the company while I was about to be a store manager. And that was
Okay.
within a year. I worked for my way from a part-time seasonal employee to just about would have been store manager within the next like couple weeks, literally. And I left. I left on my own terms. So that's where I come to now. So that's pretty much my backstory of my W-2 jobs and where I started.
Okay. That sounds good and everything. I understand when you have to make that decision to transition from a place of position. And you just explained to us how important growth and advancement was for you. And was you, before I asked this question, did you have a degree in business administration?
Yes, I got my associate's degree actually at a community college for web design. It was supposed to be computer science, and I don't think I had the smarts for computer science at the time.
Right.
I always wanted to program, and I always wanted to do like cool things on different applications and things. And that didn't kind of work out, so I went to the web design, and I absolutely fell in love with websites and web design programming in that aspect. And then I moved on to my bachelor's degree, did get my bachelor's degree in business. And then
Congratulations.
thank you. That took a while. I'll tell you, if anyone's on the bubble of like, how am I going to do this at 4 years? It could take you a little longer. It took me nearly 6.5 years to get my bachelor's
Right.
degree. It was a long process while working at the same time, full time, but I completed it and made sure I did it. And it was very rewarding to get to that aspect, something that was a goal of mine. And then I took a few classes for my MBA.
Okay.
I took a few MBA courses. I think I have about 4 or 5 under my belt, and I still have them as credits, but I'm torn because when I was younger, I've always wanted to get my doctorate degree.
Right.
Not to be
Right.
a medical doctor, but to have a doctorate in business and
Right.
to
That
travel and
DBA.
learn. Yeah, my
Right.
DBA. And I really just wanted to learn international marketing and study that. So that was the goal. It may still come back around to that. I still have back in my head every so often, I'm like, man, I should go back to school. I should go back to school. So it's in the back of my head that I'm going to do it eventually. It's just I haven't done that yet.
Okay. Okay. When did you decide to discuss promotion with your boss?
Uh, pretty much every moment I could. I'll be out real and honest with you. I always had an open-ended conversation with my bosses, and I had multiple bosses over the years in multiple companies,
Right.
and that's Boeing, at Best Buy, at AT&T. I would always make it known what my goals were. And that's why I like talking about goal setting, because if you don't have a goal, you don't know what you're going after in life, right? If that's a short
Right, right,
term 5 day goal, or if that's 5 year goal, you got to have something in your head where you want to be so you can work towards that every single day. If you don't have that, you
right,
don't know if you're succeeding or not, right? So
right,
I would have basic conversations like, what is it going to take for me? What do I need to do personally to move up? What do I need to do to be at this high end corporate level that I wanted to be? And they would give
right.
me feedback that, it would take years, right? It's going to take a lot of acknowledgement. And it really, what it comes down to is networking. You have to network. You have to know. You might have been the best in business and got a business degree at an Ivy League school. At the end of the day, it's who you know. That's
There
really
you
what
go.
it comes down to.
Right.
So it would have taken years for me to develop and network, and I thought I was at that level,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't getting there, and I just felt at that time I just needed to make a decision that was best for me.
Right. Back to what you were saying, it was who you know versus what you know. And that's like that in corporate America. I noticed you was talking about the company you worked for was a 100 Fortune 100 company. Would you please elaborate to our viewers what's a 100 Fortune company versus a Fortune 500 company, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so there's this ranking. If you go to the Fortune magazine, they have
Right.
a list, and they do it every year. They update this list of the top 500 businesses out there, and they have their own algorithm, if you may say, of what metric that they use. And it could be financials, it could be employee benefits, it could be the work environment. There's so many variables to this formula that they use. And the Fortune 500, if you work for a Fortune 500 company, that is almost like the staple. You almost like want to talk to people and say, listen, I work for a Fortune 500 company, and these top end companies.
Right.
Now, that list dwindles down to when you say you work for a Fortune 100 company or even a Fortune 50 company. That's a prestige type of thing. That's almost like saying you went to an Ivy League school versus a community college. No offense
Right.
to any of those colleges or universities, they still give you great education. But when you look at the Mercedes versus the Kia, that's what we're talking about with a top 100 or a top 500 company. And so Boeing helicopters as well as Best Buy were the top. I think I want to say Best Buy was a top 100. Unfortunately, I don't know that, and I don't want to say the wrong thing there. But all three of those companies are a top tier company to work for if you want to get in the
Right.
corporate environment. If you want the education and things like that, you really are going to learn. So these were top tier companies. They weren't mom and pop shops, and
Right.
they had rules and expectations. The corporate environment was great. I loved the corporate environment. It's just
Okay.
it didn't work out for me.
All right. Please tell us something about marketing and communication and how important it is when you want to start your own business or become a business owner.
Yeah, it is. Let's take the business end. If you know business, and business is everything. So when we talk business, we're talking sales. You're talking about partnerships, networking. You're talking about not just the specific subject of making a business plan or a marketing plan. We're talking about just knowing who to talk to and how to talk to someone, because you never know when there's going to be a business relationship that you
Right.
start from that two-way conversation, right? And
Right.
so, that very first meeting of someone could turn out to be a long-lasting relationship. So business is everywhere, right? We
Yes.
talk about business financially, but business could
Right.
be almost anything that we do that works for others or helps others. That's all a business transaction. We just don't realize it. Everyone does it daily.
Yes.
Now, marketing, it has a bad rap. In my opinion, people look at advertising or marketing as like the scheming system where we're trying to lie to people. Honestly, in my opinion, marketing is who you are, right? Marketing is, if I look at someone, right, and I see that they're professional, they give me the handshake, or they have this personality that wants to talk and wants to listen, wants to understand. That is
Right.
marketing right there. You're marketing yourself, your
That's right.
brand. And so if you're looking to start a business, it is crucial that you sell yourself, right? And it's not selling yourself to sell a product. I'm not here to sell this little thing to you, but what I'm here is I'm selling myself. If I'm a good character person and I'm genuine, right? That is marketing at its core.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's, anyone who wants to start a business, just look at yourself first and say, am I doing the right thing for myself? And am I doing the right thing for others? Am I giving them the attention? Am I helping them? And that is going to build
Right.
your brand and your business, and more than you even think.
Right. Thank you for that. And we want to talk about the preparation for separation and the preparation for transition. You knew you was getting ready to leave the company. You already made up your mind what you wanted to do. And this is getting ready to go into the next topic of you starting your own business. So would you explain this important factor that was a turning point on your decision on where you are today?
Well, so when I was talking about, I knew I kind of wanted to leave. And that was, there was a mindset maybe 3, 4 years prior to me actually leaving that I wanted to leave. And
Right.
so I had to come up with a plan. Financially, I needed to sustain some way to make money because I was making 6 figures, right? I had a very
Right.
stable career job that, I had a lot of family, friends, and people in between that would say, listen, you probably may not want to do this and leave. You probably want to stick with it because guess what? This is going to be with you forever. Why would you want to leave?
Right.
I had it in the back of my head that I knew I was going to go, but I just needed a plan. And so the plan was, let me just start this business. Let me just do it and see what I can do. Let's see if I'm successful at it first, and then I'll make that move. And so I started the business, and it's crazy. Let's talk about the business, and then I'll segue into that. I promise you. I When I was a kid, I've always loved ice cream, and I think who
Yes.
doesn't love ice cream, right?
Right.
And so I always had this fascination of like making ice cream, and I didn't tell too many people this, but way back when I was probably a freshman or a sophomore in high school. I had this
Okay.
idea of doing ice cream that you would make right there for the customer, put all these toppings in, and serve it to them fresh. And come to find out that there was a similar company that started around the same time, or maybe it was there longer, but it
Right.
was starting to be known. It's called Cold Stone. And I was like, wow, this is a great idea. This is what I've always had. And then I guess maybe it was like a couple months later, I said, you know what? I have an even better idea. What if I was, you sit down and you watch a movie at home with your family or
Right.
friends, and what can you go for? Sometimes people say they want popcorn, they want Chinese food, they want pizza, whatever the case is, you can get that ordered at any time. But one thing you can't get delivered is ice cream. And
Yes.
so I mean, there's these Mr. Softies and things like that travel around, but not on demand, not when you needed it. And so I had this great idea in high school, and I created a business plan
Okay.
around fresh ice cream being delivered on demand. So when you call us up, you say you wanted a mint chocolate chip with hot fudge and whipped cream. Within minutes, you're going to get a hot fudge sundae or a mint chocolate chip with a whipped cream and a cherry on top. And that
Right.
was the idea that I had. Everyone laughed. Everyone said, no, you can never get ice cream delivered. It'll melt. Are you kidding me? And so I guess I had this idea back in the year 2000. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's no DoorDash, there's no Grubhub, there's no Uber Eats, there's none of
Right.
these platforms. But I'm thinking to myself, well, if I make it fresh, I can typically put it in like a container, put ice in there, and I can deliver that within a few minutes and it's not even going to melt. So
Right.
this is the ideas that I'm thinking about still in high school. I go to college, I'm starting
Mm-hmm.
to learn business, I'm learning all these little nuances and things like that. And I meet my then girlfriend, now wife, and she goes to me, she gives me the best advice. And I'm glad I took that advice from her. And she goes, you're Italian. Why would you focus on ice cream when there's this new thing or this thing out there, the Italian style ice cream, which is gelato?
Right.
And dummy me over here. I'm South Philadelphia, born and
Mm-hmm.
raised, and I'm Italian, so I never even heard of gelato. I'm like, what are you talking about, gelato? So I looked it up on Yahoo, Google,
Right.
Bing, all that stuff, and I'm like, that seems interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
so I go and do research on it. I go and do the science behind gelato and how to make it. I go up to New York to learn with the best chefs in the world. And I learned so much about how to make, our artisanal gelato that I absolutely fell in love with it. I would say it's probably, if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have succeeded as well as I wanted to, because
Right.
gelato is just at the heart. It's at the core. It's all about making fresh ice cream right then and there. You're not talking about frozen ice cream that's been sitting in a freezer or a
Right.
commercial
Right.
freezer for 6 months or whatever. We're talking about stuff that's made same day, and you could get to enjoy it same day. If I'm not going to go into the deep details about gelato unless you wanted to, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely love
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's where I was. That's where I was heading. That was the next question I was getting ready to ask you. That you made homemade gelato, because you talked about it in your video, and what was the difference between gelato and American made ice cream, and you brought that out right there. So you tells the difference is a more higher end quality ice cream and it's fresh.
Oh, there's so much. I'll tell you the basic key to, if you think of ice cream, okay? Now, have you ever gone to the supermarket and you buy the container of ice cream, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
buy $3 ice cream or you can buy the $10 ice cream. It doesn't really
Right.
matter. Let's just, we'll say, for example, you go into the supermarket, you buy the $3 carton. What that ice cream is it's sugar, it's milk, right? We got to have milk in there, ice cream, and it has cream, so you have butter fat. Not getting real technical, but there's a formula, and then you put
Right.
whatever ingredients you want. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's a liquid, and it goes into this machine. And what this machine does is it's going to spin. And when it spins at a high speed. And as it's
Wow.
spinning, it's putting in air into your ice cream. Okay. Now, the more air that's in there, that's infused, okay, the
Okay.
larger the product you're going to get. So you can literally put a cup of liquid and let it run really fast, and it'll come up to like a good carton size. Well, this
Okay.
terminology is called adding air in there, right? So you have air that's built up. So pretty much when you have an ice cream that costs you $3 for a big carton, 90% of that is air. It's not even
Okay.
flavor. All right. So that's why they sell it for
Wow.
so cheap. They call it, the terminology is called overrun. So the more
Mm-hmm.
that it spins, the more air that it goes in, and that's how they can keep the product expense very low, because it really is
Right.
just air. Now, with gelato, it spins at
Mm-hmm.
a much slower rate. When you do that, you're introducing less air, which means it's more dense. So
Right.
when you buy gelato, you'll probably seen the major company called Talenti. Talenti is like,
Yes.
if you go to a supermarket, you buy the little cartons, it's like this big, and they charge you almost $7, $8, $9 for a cart for a little thing, versus a carton of ice cream you can get for a fraction of the cost. But it's very flavorful because it's less air. You're looking at about 30 to 50% air versus 90 to 100% air with ice cream. So which
Right.
would you rather have? Would you rather have actual flavor, or do you want to just taste air and spend money on air? because that's the difference between ice cream and gelato.
Okay.
Now, with that in mind, the difference between what I was doing was a lot of gelaterias, we call them gelaterias, which is gelato shops.
Right.
They were getting their gelato imported from Italy. And that's all great because you're going to get good high quality product from Italy, right?
Right.
Except there's a transport process. There's timing. You might have to wait for a while. So this ice cream is not necessarily fresh. It was made fresh in Italy, but there's at least a 3-day turn time before it's put into the shelves of the supermarket. And then at that time, by the time you get it, it might be 4 or 5 months out before you get to have fresh gelato.
Right.
Now, that was back then. I was at the time where I was one of the very few, if any, in New Jersey to make my gelato fresh in the state of New Jersey. So I would make fresh gelato and then you would
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it literally within an hour or a couple hours after. So I absolutely had like one of the best things going because I was making artisanal gelato on site fresh every single day. So I absolutely love what I did, and I still do. Unfortunately, COVID, after 10 years of doing this, I went to events, catering. We did parties, weddings, sweet 16s. I did it all. I
Wow.
loved it. I absolutely had a blast doing it. I finally hired employees, and I have so many, great relationships that I built with everyone who wanted
Right.
artisanal gelato.
Right.
Unfortunately, right around 2019, I was in talks with Whole Foods about putting a line of my gelato in cartons and little containers, just like how Talenti does it. But I was going to sell it in Whole Foods at select stores because then I can control how much I have and make sure it's fresh, right? I didn't want it to be
Right.
sitting in a freezer for 6 months because it takes away from what I really wanted, which was fresh gelato. And
Right.
so, again, this is all small business, and I just had ideas and I just ran with it. I didn't know any better, but this was all new to me. So I was in talks with Whole Foods, and right around when we were about to sign paperwork and all, COVID happened in the spring, and kind of just put a damper on things. And unfortunately, I just had to eventually close the business down altogether. Will I come back to it? I hope so. I really do want it. It just at the time, a lot of things just happened that it pushed me out of the industry temporarily.
I can understand. When I had a home improvement business, and you can see where you make your climax at, your people, your connections, your networking, and the people that you have that brings the value to your product
Right.
that you put your heart and soul in and your passion in. Now, was you a sole proprietor, or did you have your limited liability corporation?
I had a LLC, limited
Hmm.
liability. I never really thought about doing S corp or anything like that. I just wanted to keep it simple for just me. And I thought about if I were to expand this, then I would have gotten additional legal representation on maybe doing an S corp or something like that. But at the time when I signed up in 2016 to be legal. So in 2016, I was still working at my full-time job, and then I was running this company, which very very small. I legit just had a small little machine that I would have done at home. Okay,
Right.
probably
Right.
wasn't the best idea to do things at home, but then I eventually went to a corporate kitchen, bought new equipment, I spent $60,000-$70,000 on equipment, got a rental
Right.
place. I got everything official and legal. And so then the business just ran itself.
Right. You talked about earlier about a business plan. There are some viewers here that may be interested in taking their gig work to the next level
Mm-hmm.
in business. How important it is and how imperative it is to have a business plan.
Well, the one thing I would say, one, it is extremely imperative to have a business plan. However, You don't have to go on Google and type in business plan and be overwhelmed with a 70-page plan just to start
Right.
out. All right. The business plan is literally just take it as two separate words. It's a business and what your plan is. That's it. As long as you can start with an idea, which is the business, and a plan for what you're going to do, that's all you need. Okay. Don't worry about putting this 50-page, manifesto over here because it's
Right.
only going to overwhelm yourself in the beginning. My very first business plan, I went on Google at the time. I think it was Ask Jeeves or something because I'm really old. And I said to myself, well, how do I do this business plan? Even going to school, I learned I have textbooks of pages and pages of business plan stuff. And it
Right.
took me, it would have taken me close to 2, 3 months to make a business plan because I
Right.
thought I had to have every single page 100% correct. And that's not the case. All you need to do is take a notebook and write your ideas down and write what your plan is, how you're going to do it, how you're going to make money, how are you going to succeed, and what is your exit strategy? What
Right.
does that mean? How are you going to move on from this business? No one ever wants to think about that, but you
Right.
have to. You have to think about that, and that's all part of your plan. If you can come up with that, that's the foundation for, hey, all right, maybe I'll then create a 30-page plan because my bank needs that or the loan officer needs that. But
Right.
for you who just wants to start, my very first advice is to just write in a notebook and write it down. Don't just say it and put it in your head because you're going to
Right.
forget or you're not going to hold yourself accountable for it. If you put it down on a piece of paper, don't even type it. Literally take a notebook because you are physically putting that stuff down on paper and you can hold yourself accountable to that. And,
Right.
and that's the very first piece of advice I would say. And I think that's the most important thing when starting a business plan is just putting it down on paper and getting started.
Right. That's very important. You hold yourself accountable to what you see each step that you need to develop
Right.
and how you progressing towards each one of them steps. And it gives you more confidence with that. So with that being said, did you use your own capital or did you get funding for your business like grants,
It was a
loans?
it was a combination of things. A lot of it was my own funds. A
Right.
lot of it was, money saved up for a few years. Um, I may have dabbed into my 401k that I probably shouldn't. There's so much advice out there that would tell you the best. So please, I'm not no financial advisor. I'm not a legal representative. I do not want any viewer to watch a random YouTuber, okay, and take that advice. You can model your advice, my advice, but don't. I wouldn't take that and say, yeah, I'm going to take $80,000 out of my 401k. But I did take a few dollars out, and I loaned myself pretty much. Most corporations will, if you have established 401k, not only can you take a withdrawal, but you can loan yourself at a certain loan rate. And as long as you have your job still, when you do your 401k out of your paycheck, it actually pays the loan off each paycheck as well. So for me,
Right.
financially, it made sense because I was able to get access to funds almost immediately with a very low bank rate, much lower than if I went to an actual bank, right? And my 401k loan, I'm paying myself back. So I knew the money was literally going back into my 401k. And that was great. So I was able to take money out, established my business, paid off, the equipment costs. All
Wise
right.
investment. Hmm.
Right, it was. And not only was it a wise investment for that perspective, but for tax liability and tax reasons, because now I can deduct those expenses. And I
Right.
did most of my taxes myself. I do regret in some way that maybe I should have gone to a tax consultant first. I think everyone who wants to start a legal business, an official business, should always do that. Always get the legal advice out of the way before you make
Right.
your own decisions. I made my decisions, and I gotta learn from those decisions and those consequences. So again, don't take my advice 100%. But what I'm telling you, my story is, I took the money out, I paid my equipment off, and I used it as a tax deduction, tax write-off. So it worked out for me. And then I was able to just have cash flow coming in and just pay the expenses that I needed going forward.
Okay, appreciate it. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, for our disclaimer, we're not financial advisors or financial experts. He's just sharing his story from his experience on how he got started in the business. Now, there are resources that we will be bringing on this channel, which will be an information hub that you will hear from the experts, and they will give you the best advice possible. But you can even get more better advice when you meet these consultants in person. By being able to see this information, it will give you ideas of where to go for your resources and all of that. And he mentioned cash flow and how important cash flow is when you running a business. Your overhead costs, you having more money going out than money coming in, and vice versa. How would you elaborate that for our viewers today?
I wish I would have known cash flow at a younger age. I went through business classes. I went through all the learning about cash flow, but I really didn't learn it until I actually had to experience it. First off,
Right,
it is so important, not only for the fact that you should have things organized, right? You should know what's coming in and what's going out, and that's the basic premise, right, of business. You
right,
have your revenue that, or the money that's coming in, right? So when someone buys something off you, you have money. And then you have the money that's going out. So if you have to buy, new equipment, or you have to pay overhead, rent expenses, or your labor, you don't think about it, but labor is a huge, huge cost. People want to
yes,
get paid to do work. And so not everyone is like me, a business owner that's not getting paid, right? Not everyone has the enthusiasm to, oh, I'm going to make ice cream and gelato for a hybrid hustler over here. I'm not, no. They want to get paid. And so there's an expense to that. And not only that, there's tax liability that you have to pay for.
right,
And so there's all of these different levels, all right? And so cash flow is making sure that all of your expenses, right, can be covered by the income you have at the basic level. That's your basic premise. The money coming in and the money going out, and you want to have what's called a positive cash flow. That means
right,
that you're actually making a net positive, that you're making money after all expenses. Now, sometimes in a lot of businesses, when you first start, you're at a negative cash flow, which means you're
right,
spending at a higher rate than you're actually making money. This is sort of normal, okay? For the last 100 years of starting businesses, everyone knows that the first like 2, 3, 4 years is pretty much going to be in the negative. Don't expect, and this goes for anything you want to do in life. You're not just going to be, if you go into corporate America, you're not going to go from part-time to a corporate employee within the first 6 months. We know
right,
this, right? And so when you look at it in a small business, if you're just starting out, expect to not bring in any kind of profit. You might bring in revenue. You might be able to sell 1,000 of these little buttons, but that doesn't mean you're making money, because you had to pay for all these buttons. You had to pay
right
for
on.
the marketing. You had to pay for the labor. You had to pay for shipping. And those costs are going to be really high up front, because no one's going to do it for free. And so when you start to establish this and you have this organized plan, this cash in, cash out, and you know how to save costs, right, and how to save your expenses, then you will eventually start to make money. For me, my cash flow for the first nearly 4 years was always negative. And the reason why is because I invested in equipment. That equipment was a lot of money. It was close to $60,000 worth of equipment. You don't just
Right.
pay $60,000 up front. I remember I took a loan out and I took some other funds from different places.
Right.
All those funds have to be paid back. So those were high expenses up front. But over time, after the fourth or fifth year, then I'm starting to say, well, I had everything paid off. That's now recouped. Now I can take all the money that income that I generate and
Mm-hmm.
either put it back into the business or I can buy new things with it. But I always put back into the business, and that's very smart for anyone to do. But just
Right.
remember that cash flow not only is so important for organization, but just understand what positive and negative cash flow means for your business.
Right. Right. We appreciate that there, ladies and gentlemen. We want to ask him one more question pertaining to business. Then we're going to go to our next phase on our topic. When you dealing with account, your books, your ledgers, I used a single data entry ledger, which was simple for my business.
Hmm.
Some people use the data entry level. Which one of those type of ledgers did you use for yours?
It was all data driven. I put everything on a computer, a spreadsheet. The very first, when I started the business, I had a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that would just
Right.
literally have the basic information like, all right, what did I bring in today for revenue? What was my cost for today? What was my labor expense today? How much was product? I had to buy product. When you think about it, gelato just doesn't appear, right? You need
Right.
sugar, you need water. If I make a lemon sorbet, I need fresh lemons. If I made a
Right.
blueberry one, I got to go pick the lemons, which means it's time and effort that I got to go pick them, and that costs
Right.
money. So when you have all the expenses, I would put that in an Excel spreadsheet. Eventually, over time, I went to Google Docs and used a Google sheet. And again, these are all things you can get for free. It's not something you have to spend money on. You can buy notebooks, but me personally, even though I would write notes about my business on notebook, I felt like it was better for my organization to have things in a program.
Right.
Um, but eventually, the numbers and the amount of information got so overwhelming that I needed a program that would figure out everything for me because there was so much involved. And you wouldn't think about that until you're actually doing it. You just think it's, oh, well, I'm paying $50 for lemons today. I'm paying $30 for sugar. I just spent $80 and called it a day. And now, whatever, if I can make money, I make money. That's not how it is. And there's so much more involved. So then I worked on, I used TurboTax and QuickBooks by Intuit, where that was the easiest thing for me. I just put
Right.
all my expenses, all my receipts, everything I needed, and it would calculate everything for me, which then I was more in tune with the business and I can make better decisions based off of what information was being presented to me. If I couldn't spend $150 on lemons today because I knew what my cost was, then I would just have to measure that. So I use the software, and I even to this day I still use Google Sheets and a piece of software to help me out in my business.
Right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate that segment of the topic there. I knew I had the right man for this interview. And we want to talk about you becoming a gig worker, delivery driver. What inspired you to become a gig worker? When did you start doing food delivery? And which app did you start with first?
Yeah, so I had never had an inkling of doing gig work, and I mentioned this to someone else earlier that gig work, is known today as if you have DoorDash, Spark, Walmart, Instacart, whatever it is, that's gig work. But gig work is anything that's making you money that you're doing on your side, work, right? Or it could be a
Right.
full-time job, but it's whatever that you're doing for yourself. So when you think of one of the original gig works over the last 20 years, I think of having a guitar and going into a bar and sitting there and just chatting with people and doing my songs, right? That's a gig, right?
Right.
And so, we think of it now as DoorDash and all, but way back when, I was still at my W-2 job, and I remember going into a cafeteria and just sitting down and hearing someone talk about Lyft. And I had no idea what they were talking about, but it was
Right.
new in this area. And they were saying, man, all I got to do is pick up people, drop them off, and I get paid. And they were telling me these numbers, and they were telling the group, and there were so many bonuses and incentives. And it
Right.
sounded so cool to do. But I was making so good money that I didn't want to leave my job. But I was so fascinated by this idea of just working for yourself, and you could just pick up people and be your own taxi. Like, I didn't understand the possibilities, but I looked into it, and I remember going to the search engine. I typed in Lyft, and I was like, I don't know if I want to pick up people. I don't want if I want to have them in the car, not for just not. And maybe I'm not the most social person, right? Not for the safety reasons, but for more sociability and having people in my car. What if I get sick? And all these things were going through my head.
Right.
But so I typed in Lyft alternatives. And that is when everything exploded. Well, now I
Right.
learned about DoorDash. And back then, right when DoorDash was there, it was another program
Mm-hmm.
called Deliver.com. I'm not sure if you heard about Deliver.com, but Deliver.com was pretty much my idea. It was delivering. Now, they deliver more than just ice cream, obviously, but this platform was able to,
Right.
you could deliver food, any type of food, to people's houses on demand. So I said,
Right.
wait a minute. I wanted to deliver ice cream for the longest time. So I actually signed up for Deliver That as a merchant. And this is
Right.
my beginning. This is when I'm starting to learn about the other side of gig work, right? That we know now. I was
Right.
learning the merchant side. So I
Right.
actually signed up, and I had my ice cream being delivered and picked up by random people, and they would
Right.
deliver it to households. And I was like, wow, this is all I wanted to do. I didn't need a van. I didn't need a food truck or anything, even though I
Right.
bought all that stuff. But this was so cool to me. So then I said to myself, well, that whole delivery thing sounds like, appealing. I have this big van, might as well use it for potential. So what does it take to be a delivery driver?
Right.
And my very first experience back in 2017 was DoorDash. And, it was this promise of, hey, just deliver food to people and you get paid, right? And
Right.
you can get tips. And that was an idea that I was like, wow, you know what? That sounds good. I'll work for myself just like I always do. I'll do the ice cream and gelato as like my full-time gig, right? Because now we say gig, but it's my full-time business. And then
Right.
I'm also going to deliver on the side on the weekends, whenever I don't have anything to do, then I'll do that. Well, my very first order, I don't know the exact dollar amount, but I think it was a Taco Bell order for like $3. And I thought this was the most fascinating thing in the world. You make $3. I'm like, man, I can just do this about 100 times a day and I make good money. And not realizing that it's a lot of work to do
Yes,
100
it is.
orders right in a day. So I was so fascinated with that, and that's what I signed up for DoorDash. I did DoorDash for maybe 2.5 years on and off. I mean, I was still running my business, so I
Right.
couldn't, put all my attention into DoorDash. But I was just so fascinated with this idea of just working whenever I felt like it and getting paid by another corporation.
Right.
So when COVID happened, and I had to shut down the business, I looked at DoorDash as another viable option again. But this time I saw another platform, and that was Instacart. And Instacart really opened my eyes because now we have something where everyone is ordering groceries but doesn't
Right.
want to go to the supermarket due to the pandemic. And so there's a huge opportunity, and I was seeing this opportunity, and I said, I like shopping. I like supermarket shopping. I'm maybe in the minority there, but I like it. So let me go and do that. And man, the money was just rolling in. I was so naive to think that that was going to be a long-term investment
Yes.
to work on an Instacart until maybe a year and a half later, everything started to dip down.
Right.
And that's when you have to make a pivot. And that's where I made my pivot to look into other apps. So I
Right.
looked into Grubhub, Uber Eats, Spark. Eventually, before you know it, I have 8 or 9 different apps that I have on my
Right.
phone right now that I can turn on at any given moment. And I enjoy doing because I multi-app. So
Right.
I would say that I've been a gig worker since 20, the way you think gig work, since 2017. But I was doing it full time in 2020. And I haven't really stopped from there.
Most of us are drivers did. I started in 2017 as well. Experience, and you just explained how imperative it is to have multiple streams of income from coming from these different gig apps, ride share, food delivery, um, mail carrier. It's so many options out here that you can use, not to depend on just one app.
Right.
And the way it's changing and evolving and all of that, we had to look out for that. So how imperative it is for anybody that's just starting today to do their research about this side hustle that you can eventually turn into a business.
Yeah, one, you should always do research, right? In anything you want to get started. And it doesn't have to be extensive. It could be just understanding the basic premises. Because if you
Right,
start to do in-depth research where you're watching thousands of hours worth of content on YouTube before you even go out and do it, you're just wasting time because you could go out right now and learn. I went
right,
to school, business school for many years, but yet I didn't learn about cash flow until I actually did it. And
right,
so, I would tell anyone, don't worry if this is your first time doing gig work. Don't worry about opening up 9 different apps. You will eventually get there. But go
right.
out, pick one app that you're most comfortable with. Maybe you've done a little bit of research. Hey, I think my market would be good with DoorDash or Spark or Instacart, whatever the case may be, and just go. And then you'll start to learn whether, okay, maybe my market is not good for DoorDash. Maybe I should start on Spark or Instacart, and you'll learn that. But if you're just going to sit there and not go until you
Hmm.
mastered the information, well, then you're never going to start. Because I'm still
Right,
learning to this day what's good and what's not good. And I've been doing this since 2017. So, and I think we all can relate to that.
right. Okay. Market that you in that you usually do your multiple apps in. Is it in South Jersey or Philly or both?
Just South Jersey. I keep to my market, very small market actually. It's large market, but I have a sub market that I consider myself, and I don't like to move away from that area just
Right,
because one, I'll move away to the market if the money is there. I think I've been more in tune with my surrounding markets. You
right,
have to be eventually. You will get there. You will learn about the surrounding ones areas, but don't worry about that yet. Just get out there and go. And if you don't find that you're making money where you're at, then move on and try to figure things out. That's just my philosophy on it. So I did not want to work in Philadelphia, did not want to work upstate New Jersey. I really just wanted to stay within my bubble. And if one app didn't work, I'll work on a different app. And I keep
right,
rotating that until I find the right rhythm for me.
right. That's good. That's good. This next question gonna get us into our next phase on the topic. This topic is one of our favorites, yours as well as mine. What do you think about the Earned by Time program?
Mm. Well, I'll tell you something. So Funny story about the earn by time. I was one of those naysayers. I looked at when I first got the information and first got wind of earn by time that DoorDash was offering this hourly type of pay. I didn't
Hmm.
understand what it meant. All I just thought was, wow, you're going to get paid per hour. And one of the original articles that I read, and this was I don't know how long ago, said they had a number on there. They said $20 an hour, and I thought to myself, well, if I can make $20 an hour, sure, I'll just deliver whatever they want me to deliver for $20 an hour. Not knowing that $20 an hour wasn't $20 an hour, it was active hours. And so, yeah, I learned very quickly that maybe it probably earn by time wasn't the best idea. And so I looked into the platform, I looked into what they were offering, and I said, you know what? Probably not for me. Then I went into on YouTube and I looked it up and I said, man, everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone is saying that earn by time is not the right platform out there. So I'm not going to do it. And I think that was the mistake that I made. Mistake number one was listening to everyone else. You know, if there's anything you take away from this is, if you listen to someone, that's fine, but also do your own research. And
Right.
so, don't listen to even me, right? Do your own research. You can model off it and see what this person says, but don't take it as, gospel, because you know what? At the end of the day, my story is going to be completely different than yours, and just like your story is completely different than mine. So
Right.
I completely put that to the back burner. I was not going to touch earn by time whatsoever. And there was this content creator. As I'm doing, I just started with content creation. So there was this other content creator, Dasher Stew. I'll put him out there. He goes, well, you should do earn by time. And I said, no way, I'm not touching that. But that was a challenge to me. I
Hmm.
took that as a challenge. And
Okay.
so I said, you know what? Let me give it a few hours. Because he's like, do it for 8 hours. I said, hold on. Let me just try it for a few. So my first foray into earn by time, I turned on the app, turned on Dash Now, and literally within seconds, I got an offer that I did not like. So I hit the decline button. And then within a minute later, I got a second order. And that second order I didn't like, and I hit declined again. And it shut me off. And I said, well, I'm never doing earn by time again. So I shut that thing off and I said, never again. Um, and then I realized what it meant to actually go, right? And to actually hustle. And I come from a DoorDash realm of being at 0% AR. Pretty much my entire time of using DoorDash, maybe since 2020, I've been at 0%, I mean between 0 and 10%. And so when people hear that, they laugh and they're like, "Man, what do you do then? How do you make money?" I was in a large order program, and I really cherry picked to the max. And but I would sit in parking lots for like 3 hours. So when I had this as hybrid hustler owner says hustler, and I had this channel that says hybrid hustler, I said to myself, well, what does that really mean to me? Right? Does that mean sit in the parking lot for 3 hours waiting for an order? Or does that mean just you got to hustle all day long? And that's what I realized. You know what? Let me just try this earn by time one more time. Let me actually hustle it. Let me actually find out whether it's going to work out for me or not. And then I'll make a
Right.
real good determination. So I went out and I said on camera, I'm going to do this for like 3 hours. Come to find out, I did it for 14 straight hours, and I made $280. It was the
Okay.
most money I've made, even on earn by offer, in maybe 6 months at any given day on just DoorDash alone. I said, man, this is an opportunity here. I think more people need
Congratulations.
to understand that. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, many people can make $200-300 in a day, but I was very picky and very cherry picking of these orders that I would not
Right.
make more than like $150 in a day. And now I'm making 270, on this earn by time platform. All I had to do was drive. So I did it. After about 14 hours, I put that video up, and it garnered a lot of attention. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a try another day. Well, that day didn't come for maybe a couple weeks later when I went out, and it was a Sunday morning. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to do another full day. Maybe it
Right.
was a fluke to do it on a Friday, because Friday is typically a busy day anyways. So let me
Right.
try it on a non-busy DoorDash day for me in
Okay.
my market and do it on a Sunday.
Right.
So I took my camera with me and I had it in the car, and I go to town and I'm speaking to the camera, and I make a full day's worth of coverage. And I come home at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I must have brought in within a 9-hour day, right? But it was really active hours, like 4.5, 5 hours, whatever it was. And I came home, I had $170 in the bank, and I put on all the information on my computer to make this video, and no sound. Like, I had no audio whatsoever. I said,
Wow.
man, I just spent 9 hours talking about earn by time. And I just wanted this one video to talk about Sunday versus Friday,
Right.
which led me to go into my community posts and saying, hey, I lost all this footage. And I got the same information. Hey, same advice. Go and do voiceover. All right, that sounds good. Maybe I could just take the footage, put some effects and graphics and things, and we'll just call it a day with a voiceover. The business mentality that I'm thinking about is like, well, how do I make this even bigger than what it is?
Right.
What can I do to make this even more worth it? And so I
Yes.
said to myself, let's just try a whole week. Let's just go all in. I'm taking all of my chips and I'm going all in. And I'm going to do a full week of earn by time. Nothing but earn by time. And you know what? I want to live stream it to everyone so I can prove that this isn't a fluke. This isn't I'm trying to hide numbers over here. I am
Right.
legit going to show you every order that I take for 8 to 9 hours a day, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it's good content. Maybe I stink at it. I don't know. But we're going to find out together. And
Right.
man, that was brutal. It was brutal. I would say after like 2 days, 3 days live, I think it was by like Wednesday afternoon, I was beat. I went home and I said, there's no way I'm going to continue on for another Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to do this, because I had no idea that I was going to do a whole week
Right.
until Monday
Mm-hmm.
afternoon. And so I go through the whole week. Every day was great except for Saturday, which rained and was really like a really big downpour, big storm. And I said, well, at least I finished it. But by Wednesday was the day that I figured to myself, well, I'm going to add to this challenge. And not only am I going to do it a whole week, I'm going to do it live streamed, but now I'm going to add a third layer, and I'm going to hit $1,000 of straight on earn by time. And no
Right.
one, I mean, there's a lot of my regulars that believed in it, and they said, yeah, they're cheering me on. And they're like, yeah, you're going to make $1,000. Back in my head, if I could bring in $600, I would have been happy, right?
Right.
Because,
Right.
earn by time is not easy.
No, it's
Well,
not.
Friday comes along and I'm like at $888, and I said, man, I gotta get to that $1,000, because I got 30, 40, 50 people watching me every single day, and they want to see me
Right.
succeed on this. They don't want me to
Right.
fail. And so Saturday came and it was raining. It was a bad day, but sure enough, I ended up making, I think I ended up with $1,016, I think it was. It actually came out to be more with tips, cash tips, but I
Right.
wasn't counting that 100%. So just what DoorDash was telling me, $1,016, I smoked the goal. Did it in one full week. I showed the daily results from each day, and I did it
Right.
live streamed. And it was a huge, huge thing for not only me, but for everyone watching it, to help.
Yes. Yes. Not only that, you did it as a non-top dasher. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So I started out. Now the screenshot that I showed, it showed 1%. I didn't take the screenshot on Sunday where I was a 0% because I had no idea that I was going to do this for a whole week.
Right.
So I started out on Sunday at 0%. So non-top dasher. I haven't been top dasher in at least 3-4 years. So I didn't even
Right.
know what top dasher, all the benefits were and anything. So I was just going into it. Let me just work on this. I think it was maybe after my first order on Sunday. I said, "Oh, let me take a screenshot," and it was 1%. So technically, on the screenshot's 1%, but I started at 0, and then after the first day, I did 18 orders on Sunday, so it may grow right up to 18%. Then I went up to 35%. Then it was 49, 66, 70. It kept rising. So yeah, I still didn't technically hit top dasher, obviously until the end of the month. But
Right.
at the end of the week, I did 120 orders, so it's 120 deliveries, and it went from 0% AR to I think I ended up with 88%. I think it was. I don't remember if I hit the 90. I think it was just 80 some percent, which I
Okay.
had a difficulty going from 70 to 71%. I think it was like 15 straight deliveries, and I still didn't increase 1%. It was very disheartening for that long stretch. But I knew that I was going to eventually get over that hump, and I did. So by the end of that whole thing, it was around the 80 some percentile that I ended up at. A lot of work, lots of work, a lot of hustle, but I showed that it can be done. You can make money if you wanted to. You just got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. You got to grind if you want that. If you don't want that, then that's fine. If you don't have a goal in mind, like I came up with that goal midweek. And Wednesday, I said, you know what? I'm going to make, and this time I think I was at like 350, almost $400. And I said, I'm going to make
Right.
$1,000. That was the goal in my head. I worked towards that goal. That's why I think it's so important we have goals. If we
Right.
write it down or whatever, it holds us accountable.
Right. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Now you hear his story. That's the reason why it was so intriguing to me. Realistic. Not only did he talk the talk, he walked the walk. He made that rubber meet the road out there in them streets, ladies and gentlemen. I want to give this man and join me in giving him a round of applause for doing it as a non-top dash.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I would just like to say on top of that, like not every market, I do
Right.
have to preface this, not every market's this way. My market is, I don't even know if my market's great. It's just that I worked a lot of hours. I worked over 40 hours of dash time to get to that point, and I spent a lot on the road. So I put a lot of miles, and I put that in my video. Not everyone's going to want to travel 1,000 miles to make $1,000. Maybe it's not good for a lot of people on a lot of people's vehicles, right? So I know I'm going to get a lot of flack, and people are going to say, well, you put a lot of miles on that, though. Sure, I did. But at the end of the week, I can say that in my Dasher account, I have $1,000, and that went to my bank account. So
Right.
I'm happy with that $1,000. I don't know if you would be happy with $1,000, but I know I was.
Yeah, I would be. And plus two multi-appers. As multi-appers, we put a lot of miles too,
Yeah.
making that money as well. So that's an equivalent to what he did with Earn by Time. The strategy I used was that there are EBT zones and EPO zones. And in my research and case study that I did 8 months, I knew where to go to get mines. And most of my money that I was making was off of stack orders, triple stack.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally became a top dasher as well. And I would see certain peak pay that other drivers wouldn't see on Earn by Time. And I leveraged that also in being able to maximize my earnings in my market. That's the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, you have to come up with your own plan. You have to discover truth for yourself in your market.
Right.
And decision making is very, very, very imperative. So as you had this experience with Earn by Time, there are pros, there are cons to both feature this program.
Oh, yeah.
The more you do it, you will find out. Then we have competition out here as well, you know. So the next phase we're getting ready to jump into is this here, ladies and gentlemen. Um, he's a content creator. And what inspired you to become a content creator, and when did you start?
I think when I was 5 years old, no, legit too. I was always in front of the camera. There's home videos that my mom would, remember there's seven of us in the household, five siblings that I have, and they're all competing for that space on the camera. That my mom would always just be filming us all day long, and so I think I was always the one that just wanted to be on camera ever since then. But I'll tell you, I never really wanted to be on camera, like publicly in the world. Not until I would say maybe the last few years, maybe in the last like 5 years or so, I started to learn a little bit more about how the gig economy worked. I At the same time, I played a lot of video games. So I was in the Call of Duty and things like that. And I had this new system. It was the Nintendo Switch. I mean, this is way back years ago. So I said, you know what? Let me open up a Twitch account and do something on Twitch. And I started that back in 2020. And I wasn't good at it at all. And I tried to be someone I wasn't. And I tried to be this gamer over here that would just enjoy games and play games all day long, because what else was I going to do? And because I tried to be someone completely that wasn't me, it didn't work out. And so I learned very soon that if you're not going to be yourself, just get out of the field. Just don't even be on camera, because you're not going to know what to talk about. You're not going to sound genuine. You're not going to have that confidence out there. And so I kind of quit that whole like Twitch gaming and things like that. But I did want to open up a YouTube channel. So I tried multiple channels. If you looked at my channel list, I had 4 or 5 different channels that I started. I did a music channel where I would have 24/7 music, like a radio station. I wanted to get into podcasting because, hey, if you didn't have to see my face, at least you can hear me talk about business or marketing and just interview other entrepreneurs. So I wanted to do something like that, but never really pushed it out because I at the end of the day, I thought my face, you being on camera was going to make the bigger difference. Well, when I learned about gig economy, I mean, there's tons of content creators out there. So I saw the big content creators, right? And there's so many out there. Your driver Mike, Pedro, Doordash Santiago, Nugs out there. There's so many content creators. I don't. There's another one, Mushi Moo over there. A lot of these people that were just door dashing, and they were filming it, and they were just. It was so basic, but because it was so basic, it looks like it was so easy. And I said, let's give it a shot. So I wanted to do it 2 years prior. So it was 2022. I wanted to get started, and I didn't do it. I shy. I said, you know what? This probably is not for me. No one's going to take me seriously. There's so many others doing it, and I chickened out. It wasn't until I watched Chuck from Dashing Across America. And
Okay.
I give him a lot of credit because he was the first one that I saw out of all these content creators that literally just picked up the phone and recorded and then uploaded it and made it look super, super easy, that if he could do it, and I'm not
Right.
putting him down, I'm just saying, if you make it look that easy, maybe I should get back into doing that, because I already do DoorDash every single day. I already do
Right.
Instacart every single day. And at that point, I think when I wanted to start it up in 2023, I was doing Instacart every day and bringing in 250, almost $300 a day. I'm like, well, if I'm already doing this, I might as well show it and get paid on that on YouTube. This was the mentality. So I said to myself, very first day in January 1st, 2024, I'm going to go and create a YouTube channel and I'm going to go to town and get started. I thought about all this for months leading up. I thought about the plan. What was I going to be? What did I want to do? What kind of content to create? And New Year's Eve, 2023, I get sick. I was doing Lyft for 1 week
Wow.
straight. And I guess with the people I was bringing in, I remember this kid coughing a lot. And I didn't think of anything of it. And I just, with 2 days, within a day later, on New Year's Eve, I am like, I'm sweating. And I'm like, I'm not even doing it. I have the air conditioner on. It's super cold outside. It's, the end of December. And I am like hot. And I got sick. And I had the flu for first 2 weeks of January. It ended January 16th. January 18th, I started my YouTube channel. And so I just my first 2 weeks, I was like, oh man, I can't even do the YouTube channel like I wanted. 2 weeks in January, it's already messed up. And I even debated not doing it. I said, maybe this was just the answer to just not even touch YouTube. I said, let me do it anyways. So I turned on the YouTube channel. I got everything ready. And I said to myself, my name is Hybrid Hustler. It was a little alliteration. I like that whole hustler mentality because I am very positive and I do work hard and I believe I am a hustler. And the reason why it's hybrid is because I had a hybrid vehicle. I had a Ford Maverick truck. And I said, well, that's part of the branding. I have this Ford Maverick truck that's a hybrid and I'm a hustler. But at the same time, I'm a hybrid in terms of my apps. I can do Instacart. I can do Doordash. I can do a Spark. I can do any app. I'm a hybrid of mixture. But then also I can talk about business. I can talk about marketing. I can talk about life advice. I can talk about anything I want because it's my channel. But it's not just solely on Doordash. And that is why I call myself the hybrid hustlers. That I'm all over the place. But at the same time, I'm hustling to make money. Right. And so that was my branding. And I recognized that right in the beginning that you got to have a brand to have a successful channel. You don't have to be anyone you're not. I am me. You talk to me on the daily outside of here. This is how I want to be. But I wanted to dial it up a little bit. If I'm going to be the hybrid hustler, you best believe I'm going to go hustle out there and you're going to see that. I'm going to work the hours. I'm going to work I'm going to drive a lot of miles. And my first couple of videos didn't really show that. And you saw it, and there's people out there who can see that. And I said, my audience can tell that I'm not genuine. I got to start being genuine to myself and actually produce content that I would want to watch myself. And so once I started to realize who I was and I actually projected that on the camera, my confidence went way up there. And I was able to speak from the heart. I can have a conversation with you in the car. And that's what every one of my lives, I just talk in front of a camera all day long because I just like talking. I can talk about almost anything. I'm not fearful or shy about something because this is who I am. So I started this channel January 28th. I'm not bragging here. I'm not bragging. That's not the point of this. But I started January 28th, and I feel very confident where I'm at. And I just wanted to continue to succeed and grow. And really, my whole point of the channel is to help others. That is the point of this channel. It's not for my own sake, because guess what? I don't need the channel for me to succeed. I know in my heart I'm going to succeed no matter what I do. But if I can help motivate, like Chuck motivated me from Dashing Across America, or how Pedro motivated me way back when. There's all these content creators that did this exact same thing and they motivated me. Well, I would just want to give back as well and motivate someone else who may be thinking about doing this. In any form, not just gig work, but for business or marketing, branding, whatever the case may be. Let me help you, even if it's the minute thing, because that's going to make me feel good at the end of the day.
That's the rewards of it. That's the beauty of it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a round of applause again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what intrigued me to you. Your story, your journey. You see, and you over 1,000 subscribers. In less than 6 months. That's what sparked the idea, turned the light bulb on in my dark room to come out with an edition of rising gig tubers that are content creators that's coming out like they're there. Within less than 6 months, you done reached 1,000 subscribers, and the audience see how authentic your message is and how real you are in live stream ride-alongs. Doing this EBT is a challenge within itself, but that motivate other drivers in the day-to-day challenges that we have when we out here in these streets. That's what we had to look at and look forward to. And you also, with your membership and everything, and I like what you did in the first one that you did with creating thumbnails. You talked about the importance of thumbnails, and you talked about the importance of topics and title, and you talked about the importance of content. That's going to be very valuable for a lot of viewers, especially content creators that's new to the channel, or you're a small content creator. Your expertise may not be there. Now we have a resource of information coming from this content creator that he don't mind sharing with you. He told you his resume today. That's exactly what we did. We went over his resume. We didn't go over questions. He understood when we was in the backstage. I said, it's your resume. And everything he put down in his resume, he was like, look, if you ask me about my resume, I can handle any question that you throw at me. And you're going to get more interviews. You're going to get more interviews, so be ready to see them come in your direction. I see you going to reach 5,000 to 10,000 subscribers within by the end of this year. That's what I see in the direction that you're going in. And like I said, you remind me of Dr. Norman Vincent Peale with enthusiasm makes the difference, positive thinking, and you carrying that on into this community. And we need that in this community. Now, the question that I want to ask you is, earlier when we was talking about spreadsheets, metrics, a lot of people don't think it's very imperative to have metrics, right? But it is, though. You need to study your historical data. These apps are changing. They know our historical data, and it's very imperative that we know. That way we can make better decisions. Please elaborate to us how imperative it was for you after you did your research, how important it was for you to gather your historical data so you can share it with our viewers.
Everyone has an opinion, okay? Right or wrong, everyone has an opinion. But data tells the actual story. That's the truth, right? So if you do not know the facts of the matter, if you don't have data to back it up, everything you say is just an opinion. I have gotten so many people that I would see it on my own end, or I would see it on YouTube. Earn by time is not good. That was the basic message, the overall message that was told to me. And I said to myself, well, okay, that might be true. Let me find that out, but not only find it out, but I want to have it factual. I want to know, is it viable? Is it sustainable? Is it something that someone else could take the information and say, and also possibly duplicate? And the only way that someone can duplicate a recipe is facts, right? So if you you make chocolate chip cookies, and I say my chocolate chip cookies are the best chocolate chip cookies, the very first question you're going to ask is, how did you make it? What's your recipe? And so I have to give you the factual information so you can go ahead and duplicate that. Now, we in the business field can also do the exact same thing. It's called data. And so when you separate the data that you can get and you put this and sort it out, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be a program, it could be your notebook. It doesn't matter as long as you have the information that you can back it up, right? You can prove that this information came here. And you can provide that to someone else as like a blueprint of some sort. Then someone else can say, well, let me do the exact same test as you and see what kind of information I get. And then you can start to decipher the information and the facts and actually come up with a theory or a viable opinion besides just answering what other people say and say, yeah, earn by time sucks. Yeah, that's the most garbage piece of platform you could ever do, right? And that might be a valid opinion, but is it factual? And the only way to know is you got to deep dive into your data and make a determination. Now, my data, if you go back to my channel, I have a link in the description of that video, which you can then go into the public, it's out there for everyone, the data that I had. And that is raw data that I then exported out to multiple charts and figures that you can then make your own determination. Because some facts, just because they're facts, doesn't mean it's the right story for everyone. And what I mean by that is someone's going to come out and say, well, how many miles did you drive? How much did you spend on expenses? How much did you, when we talk about cash flow, right? This is all about business. So I go and I actually went ahead and put how much my gas or my fuel expenses was. I put on there how much I paid per day and how much that equated to per week.
Right.
How much was my fuel total that I used for the mileage? All that data is listed on there. And I think that's more important than the bigger picture of just saying earn by time is worth it or not, because then you can make a determination. If you had a vehicle that is maybe not the best or not new or it's very old and you can't drive a lot of miles, then you probably don't want to do earn by time because you're going to be using a lot of miles in order to make the money you want. If you have a lot of time on your hands, then maybe earn by time would be beneficial because over time, as I've proven in the data, that over time you will make that money. Now, there's other theories to my data, and my case study for this whole earn by time was there's a lot of variables and it really takes a lot of time. My end all opinion on earn by time was at the end of the day, if you're hustling, you can make the same amount on earn by offer than you were earn by time. Well, how do you? Someone's going to say, well, how does Hybrid Hustler know that? Like, what information gives you to back that information up, that claim? Here's my data, right? And so when I do earn by offer, if I were to take the same offers, could I have made $1,000 in a week? Sure, it's possible because I would just take every order anyways. But some people are going to look at the data however they want to look at the data. My objective was just to provide that data, and then you make a determination from there. That was it.
Discovering truth for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, in the market that you're in. That's what we both talk about. His technique, how he do EBT, my technique, how I do EBT. You know, there's a mathematical formula that I use. In my market at that time, we was looking at active hourly pay at $27.50. Why not leverage that? Why not get the stack orders? Why not get the reject orders? Why not go in the area where it's no tips, higher base pay? Mm-hmm. I showed a record breaking event. I did it with $48 and some odd cent on earn by time, and it was 2 stack orders. You know, knowing when to go out there, knowing your market, knowing what's happening in your market, knowing where your competition is, knowing about certain restaurants that other drivers may not know about. Those are key factors, and having the lack of knowledge of these things determines how we make our decision. That's the reason why he intrigued me so much, ladies and gentlemen, his story being able to do it in 1 week, not being the top dasher. People want to know about the dash now. Was you able to dash now as often, or did you have to be scheduled on blocks? What was that experience and that struggle for you for getting there? Because that's the questions that's being asked right now
Yeah, I
from
definitely
our
had to
viewers.
schedule. I had to schedule every week, that or every day, and the problem that I had was I did not schedule for Friday. Mistakenly I was so caught up with the days that I was working that I completely forgot to schedule Friday. The day before my 1 week was going to be over. Now you got to granted what you got to think about it. You schedule 6 days in advance. So 6 days prior, I had no idea that I was doing this for a whole week. I had no idea that I was going to do earn by time. So I didn't even think about it until Wednesday when I pulled out my schedule and I said, whoa, I'm not scheduled for Friday. But because I wasn't scheduled for Friday, I almost didn't do the rest of the week because I thought, man, I wasn't going to get any work. Luckily, I was able to dash now. There were some open spots, and I worked around that open spots. I did try to get on Uber, and I did Uber, but none of my metrics, none of my data has Uber numbers on there. Technically, I made a lot more than $1,000 because I worked Uber for 1 day, and I did a couple orders on Friday just to supplement the time until I was able to dash. But I used all the data just for DoorDash, and I still made over $1,000 on just earn by time. So it is definitely possible. But yeah, I was not a top dasher, so I could not dash now anytime. I had to schedule 6 days in advance. That's what you have to do, and I kept up with that, except for Friday, and I still was able to max out and make $1,000. Again, it's not everyone's going to have that, but if that's the goal, you're going to make it work however you can. You just got to have a goal that you can measure and you could say, well, I either succeeded or I didn't. That's the whole point. You don't know if you're going to succeed unless you have a goal that you're working towards. That's
Right.
why I try to preach out to everyone. So you got to have goals and you got to write them down.
Got to write them down, and you can't be afraid of challenges. You can't let anyone tell you that this is a stupid challenge. It's ridiculous. This is your life. This is your story.
Right.
This is your experience. And he did it, ladies and gentlemen. He did it in black and white, as well as he did it on a live stream ride along where you don't edit things. People see what's going down right now. You know, that's the new content of era now, of our era of being content creators, being able to do it in a live stream ride along where you see these details of information that will turn that light bulb on in the dark room where you discover truth for yourself. There are markets out there you don't know about in your area that you can maximize your earnings in. In my video yesterday in dashing for $2, you know, was an experience that I said, I'm not going to be ashamed to put this content out there. Let them laugh. But they know they can relate to this experience. You know, how many times that we switched to another app, we missed that CBR order. You know, how many times that we made a decision to go into an area, we missed that CBR order. How many times we have to pitch orders back and forth in a crossfire with other drivers, which is our competitors.
Right.
You know, that's a challenge every day, and miss that CBR order. They are out there, but it's up to us to find out where they are and be there on the spot. As a content creator, you a rising content creator. People like you. They like you. They like what you bring into the table, which is value. Like I said, you will be getting more interviews in this community. I see it coming. You know, the value that you bring, the positivity that you bring, the questions I haven't asked you, which I'm not going to ask you because I had right at 75 to 100 questions. This is good enough right here. You know, that gives other content creators opportunity when they interview you to say, well, the Rev missed this area here. The Rev missed that area there. Then they can work that for their platform, for their channel, for our viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you this was going to be by far one of the best interviews that I did this year, because I did my research, my case study on this gentleman. But if he hadn't reached out to me in a community post comment, I would not have known. And like I said, he came out of nowhere like kaboom. I'm in the house. I'm in the house for the final. Well, let's see. Let's look in the comment section. Go ahead and look in the comment section. If you want to address anything in the comment section, you can go ahead.
You know what? Let me see if you know what because I'm using my main phone. Give me one second. Go on your channel. I'm actually there right now.
Okay.
And wow, you got a lot of people on here. That's awesome. Hey, first off, let me just tell you, as another content creator yourself, you're just very professional, and you have a great channel and a great message that you talk to others. I think that's awesome. So just keep doing what you're doing. My message to you is just keep going, keep grinding, because just like on Doordash, we say keep grinding. You're doing your thing as well, and you're spotlighting others. And no matter who it is and what they're doing, you're allowing them to speak on a platform, and you're allowing them to come on your channel and to provide that message. I give it to you. I give you a lot of respect for that. So awesome job for you too. I give you a lot of credit as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It keeps me humble. I want you to be able to share this. I should have thought about it earlier, where you could have been streaming it on your channel as well. You're welcome to, use this and put it on your platform as well, so the viewers can see this is part of the portfolio that you build for your channel and everything. That's what we got to do, ladies and gentlemen. We would collaborate with other content creators. We don't look for it to be a gain just for us. It's a gain for you, the audience, the viewer. Everyone wins here. And this is the valuable information that we bring to the platform. So to no further ado, you can go ahead and look at the comments, and any comments you want to address, you can do it at this time.
So, just looking at I'll just read the first one from Hulk Smash. It says, what are some of your hobbies, if anything? I love talking about my hobbies. One, I love content creating, but at the same time, I'm a big editor, so I like video editing. I like finding new creative ways to put my message out there. And before YouTube, I was doing editing for photos, for videos. We had wedding videos that I would put together and try to manipulate how it looks in the presentation. So I love that. My biggest hobby, honestly, is building other people's businesses. I'll be honest with you. I get this big fascination with just helping others grow, and this is not something that comes across or shouldn't come across as I'm just over here talking about how to help others. No, I've lived this for so long that I want to help others build a business and make money and build their brand, however that is. So that's why when I started this channel, it was really just supposed to be a basic channel on building your brand and your business. And the thumbnails that I do, that's just the beginning, right? If there's anything you guys want, in starting a business plan or a marketing plan, how to get loans for a business, it's just not easy doing that stuff. Or to more advanced stuff, if you want to learn how to build a channel. Again, I'm not the biggest channel over here, but I do have the insight. All right. I went through school. I got my degrees. I do have some sort of eye for building a brand. I think that's very important. If you don't want to build a business, that's fine. But there is a brand to everyone. If you're just opening up a channel on YouTube, but you don't know what to talk about, let's talk about that, because everyone has a message. Everyone has something they want to deliver and put out there. And if that's what you want to do, it's all about starting that brand very early. And I'll give advice to anyone who wants to start up a YouTube channel. Think of it as a business. You have to. You have to start out thinking about your business I don't mean you have to be monetized. Yes, that's great, and that's a perk that YouTube allows you to have, right? Because they give you revenue share and they give you opportunities for growth. But there's, building a brand will help you establish to make money either by merchandise or affiliates, or if you get sponsorships. The possibilities are endless when you have a YouTube channel, and anyone has that opportunity. You just have to go out and do it. And so one of my hobbies is really just talking, talking about this and educating others on building their brand, because I really do believe that. So hopefully you take that message, and I'm always open to any of that. So my email is in my channel. If you have any questions and you just want to shoot a question my way, by all means, shoot me an email. I'll definitely help you out as much as I can. And if I could, I'll make a video about it so I can help others do the same thing. There's so much chat here. That's awesome. I really appreciate, like I said, this opportunity. So, hopefully the message out there is to, I think one person said it, invest in yourself. Nate, you said that. That's awesome. I think that's the mentality, right? If you don't invest in yourself, one, you're not going to go anywhere, because you don't know where you're going to go. And two, people can see right through that. They can see if you're not dedicated to your own growth, then people are just waiting for you to fail. They don't want you to succeed at that point. You want them to look at you and say, man, I want to be just not like them, but I like their success. It helps me. It motivates me. It gives me positivity to that I can do that as well, or do something similar that I like to do. Maybe your hobby is something completely different, that you would never think to make money off of, or you never thought you could make a YouTube channel on. You can. There's so many different niches out there. Everyone could make money on YouTube, and I hope you do. If you are on the cuff, go ahead and do it, because you're going to make money. You will. And I hope this is the message that gets delivered to people, is that you have the opportunities out there. You just got to, like Nate says, invest in yourself. Starting a YouTube channel, you can't go wrong with Doordash videos. I'll be honest with you. I will say that when you look at a YouTube channel, you got to look at it bigger than your niche. My niche is YouTube, and or DoorDash, and that's great, but not everyone can relate to DoorDash. And
Right.
so my thing would be, yes, it's great to me to get into the niche and somehow talk about DoorDash, but the long term of my YouTube channel is much more than just DoorDash. It's much more than Grubhub, because I think there is a glass ceiling at the top where how many
Right.
subscribers are actually watching DoorDash videos and actually care. I think there was a stat out there, and I don't quote me on this, but the quote was that there's more gig tubers out there than there is people watching gig tube content. So that means there's more people now creating DoorDash content, and we're basically in one big cycle. We're just watching each other do the same thing we continuously do, which is okay, but there's a ceiling to that. Where are you going to do to expand so you're at the millions of subscribers and millions of viewers, and not just this hyper-focused, demographic who likes DoorDash? So I watched a podcast, or I listened to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about this legal lawyer who, I know I'm off topic here, but has a point to it.
You good? You good? It's your story.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So this lawyer created a YouTube channel and talked lawyer jargon. Okay, anyone who's a lawyer or in law school would understand the legal jargon that he was talking about.
Right.
His message was good, but it wasn't capturing the wider audience. And he couldn't understand why he wasn't, he had great insight, great knowledge. He was very smart. He went to law school. Obviously, he knows what he's talking about, but he wasn't capturing the millions of followers where these kids were creating YouTube channels and getting millions of followers. And he was like, well, what am I doing wrong? Come to find out, he realized and he learned that that niche that he was in was so hyper focused. And even though he had the insight and the knowledge, all he had to do was just change up the niche just a little bit and open it up. And he grew. So what he did, he got the advice to, there's a lot of lawyer or law shows and movies out there. So why not do a channel looking back at all these shows and movies and relating it to real life? So people can relate to the movie Home Alone or a law like Law and Order, and they can relate to this because they know it's on TV and you watch it. So him and his background took this information and made a channel blending the two together, pop culture and his real life legal, and now he became Legal Eagle. So I'm sure there's someone out there who's seen the channel Legal Eagle, and if you do, you probably know him for just making wacky lawyer type of talks and videos based off of pop culture information that's out there. And he's able to capture a much larger audience. And so while I see a lot of people who write about, DoorDash is great, I think the DoorDash itself could be widened, right? If you're a content creator, don't just hyper focus just on DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats, that all these little apps. Start to expand that to a much larger audience who could relate to you as a gig worker. That's the challenge. If you want to talk about what the future of GigTube is, I'm telling you, I'm going to be the first one to state it because I did the same thing with gelato. And I know there's a question from Steve about gelato, so I'm going to answer that as well. But, if you start to look at the bigger horizon, that's gonna really make a big difference for GigTube in the next year or two. Guarantee. You're gonna start to see GigTubers who are in the upper millions of subscribers because they're gonna be capturing an audience that probably would not have watched your daily vlog, but now they want to understand a little bit more, not just on DoorDash, but merchants and the whole philosophy around delivery. There's a lot of, and I'm going again away from the topic, but there's a lot of stigma around tipping and people not tipping versus people who tip and this, that, and the other thing. It gives a bad rap. But instead, as content creators, let's step back a little bit and let's create content that educates everyone about the culture and about the process of gig work in such a way that anyone can relate to it. And when that starts happening, not only will you see your growth, I think the economy and I think the whole entire gig economy itself is going to be in a much better shape than what it is now. That's just my opinion. There was this question I think you highlighted from Steve. How much does it cost to make gelato? And how much does it sell for? What volume of sales? That's a great question. I love talking about gelato. So there could be hours of gelato conversation. To answer that question, how much does it cost to make? It cost me on average 25 cents an ounce. And my average cup size was 3 ounces. I mean, I did sell them in 3, 5, and 7 ounce cups. So you got to think about my cost in that case, 25 cents an ounce. I did 3 ounce cups. So, and I'm a bigger guy, so I like to put a little extra because I make sure I give back to my people who bought the gelato. So I would give you a little bit more, but my cost was 75 cents. How much did I sell it for? The average price. I have no shame because that is competitive with all the other gelatos. I was selling anywhere between $5 to $7 for a cup of gelato, but it's much different from ice cream. And so, again, when you look at the cost of gelato, that's not factoring in labor expense. That's not factoring in my overhead. In my actual cost was probably a little higher, but just to make the gelato, maybe a quarter per ounce, but I'm selling it for $5. But that's not factoring in some of the other overhead expenses that I had. So, how much volume did I achieve? It all depends on the year, the month, the time of day. I was making gallons per day of gelato. Now, when you think, well, that's only gallons, that how much could you really sell? But again, I'm only selling in 3-ounce cups. So I can get a lot out of that 1 or 2 or 3 gallons that I would make. So there was a lot of money to be made. Hulk asked, do I still have the gelato business? Unfortunately, once the pandemic hit, I was not able to continue that to the extent that I wanted to, because the money was there, but it wasn't 100% there like it was prior to COVID. There was a lot of regulations and things that I wasn't prepared for. As a business owner, you got to be prepared for a lot of things. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone really prepared themselves for what was about to happen in 2020, right? Like, you can prepare financially for certain things. You can prepare for a bad rainy day, but we didn't have just a bad rainy day. We had much longer than that. So unfortunately, I had to make the decision to exit the business within, I would say within, I kind of pushed it out a little later than I should have. I think I lasted an extra year or year and a half after COVID began. So maybe 2022 is when I officially sold off the business. I think I sold my last piece of equipment just last year, actually. And it was hard to do. It wasn't easy. How hard was it to get on schedule, if anything? I guess that was for Doordash. DoorDash, I mean, it's not hard to get on the schedule. I just have to schedule 6 days in advance. So, what city am I working at? I work out of the South Jersey area. There's not one specific city, just because I do travel as much as I can. And I do have apps that I look at all my apps, right? And so if I know that there's a certain app that works during one day versus another, like a weekday or a weekend, then I'll work those apps. And I have apps called Dispatch It, which is great for my truck, because I can get larger, like Lowe's orders. During the spring, I'm going to get like lots of landscaping orders where I get to pick up 30 bags of mulch or whatever. And so they usually have to travel further distances. So I'm pretty much all in South Jersey. Gotta have LOP, right? I do have LOP. I do have a large order. I was using that for such a long time, but I don't use that now because I have Earn by Time. And even though you can get a large order or a catering order on Earn by Time, and I've proven that when I did the video for the whole week, I don't see more of them. So, I was cherry picker. I cherry picked every order and just waited for the large orders all the time. But again, I would just sit at the cost of sitting in a parking lot for maybe 1-2 hours waiting for that one order. It wasn't really worth it to me. And I would make the same amount of money if I drove, or sometimes even more money, than waiting for that one large order that would, hopefully that unicorn would pop up eventually. So the money's out there. You have to make the decision whether it's worth it for you or not. I wonder how he took his skills and incorporated within the gig world. I'll tell you, it's crazy because I really feel as if you're here on Earth, right? You're here on this place to learn, and you don't know what your end result is until later in life, when you start to realize everything that you come before you. All that information you've learned is now helping you for your present. And so for me to become a very successful small business owner, I needed to learn sales, which all my life I was in sales, talking to people and networking, which is all part of sales and marketing, going to school in life where I had to learn that. But somehow I went to manufacturing, and that is so unlike me. But manufacturing allowed me to learn about my business on the manufacturing end, right? And so why did life take me to that manufacturing for 8 years? Because I learned how to be a better salesperson and a better business owner for my gelato business, because I was manufacturing in bulk and I needed to learn logistics. Was I going to learn logistics just in school? Maybe. but I learned it through a different employer in a completely different field that was able to apply that here. So I think everything in life is done for a reason. And when you finally get to a point where you look back and you say, huh, all that makes sense because everything I did happened for a reason. How many hours was he out making the 1K a week? I worked. It's all the data is in my public Google Sheets. You're more than welcome to go on there. If you want to go to my video, in the description, there's that link. You can see all the hours that I worked. I'm sure it was like 40 or 41 hours of dash time. Active time. Now I'm sorry. Yeah, active time was 40 hours. The actual hours was much, much higher, but they calculate it with pausing. And so there was a lot of times where I would get up first thing in the morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it would be available for me to start. I would hit start, but then pause it. So that's calculating that time. And that's not, I don't want to use that data for justification because there's a lot of times where I would just pause my work and just take breaks. And I would take breaks for a half hour and sometimes for an hour. So you would have to keep coming back on and then pausing. It was a lot of time, but 40 hours of active hours is what I spent for that 1,000. How much did it cost to start the business? Is he going to tell us? All right. To start the business, how much did it cost me? Whew. I mean, it was so long ago. I just on the equipment alone, I've spent over 60 grand on equipment. And this is before rent. This is before labor expenses. I would have to assume that over the course of 10 years, I spent over $250,000. Okay. But did I make the $250,000? I would have to look back at the finances to look at, all that stuff. And I don't have that offhand, and I do not want to just shout out random numbers if I don't have it. So, but yeah, that I did spend a lot, especially for the first couple of years, spent a lot on the van that I purchased, the equipment that I purchased, everything had an expense to it. Yeah, I mean, if there's any other questions, I love what they're talking about way back when. I would say, anyone who wants to get into business, this is my, one advice to everyone is just go out and do what you want. Do what you're passionate about and do what's going to make money. Don't just do something that's not going to make you money, because I think at the end of the day, it is about money. As much as people want to say it's not, there is a financial responsibility for all of us to take care of ourselves, take care of our family, take care of the people we love. And whatever the case may be, you have to do that. And the money is important in some respects. So do what is important to you and what you love. But at the same time, look at, does it make sense for you financially?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we get ready to wrap it up. It's his time to get ready to do some things. He got other engagements and important things he got to do. I thank everybody for trying to keep it cordial today, because he brought a lot of value to this platform. And some questions was asked if we're going to bring business experts in here, financial experts in here, tax advisors, professionals. We will be bringing others to this information hub of resources of information, and you'll be able to ask your questions then. That's the reason why when he was looking at the questions, I went ahead and started pinning them up so he could address them, pretty quickly. We have so many people in the room. I won't be able to give all of you a shout out, but at the end of the day, he's telling people you got to believe in yourself. And go ahead and tell the people, our viewers, about your channel and where to look for you at.
I appreciate it. It's the Hybrid Hustler. If you type in Hybrid Hustler on Google or YouTube, you will find me. You'll find my beautiful face. Yeah, and if you have any questions as well, my email is right on the main page. It's hybridhustlerarmy@gmail.com. Feel free to email me at any time if you have any questions.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know how I do it. I usually, when I get ready to exit out, I do my music outro. And what I do, I pin as many comments that I can pin so you can see them on StreamYard. I can't do the same thing on YouTube Live. Maybe I can. I might have to do some more research. But we thank you today, man. You brought so much value to our community. You brought so much value to this channel. I'm quite sure all the viewers will be watching you now. Like I said, you will be getting some more interviews. When I interview people, I don't do it to embarrass anybody. I do it so we can get value from them, and we put them in a documentary here, of their worth to our community and what they bring into our community. That's what we do on this platform. We don't bash content creators here when we do interviews. That's not the interviews that these creators deserve, these successful drivers deserve. Even though if you don't agree with the challenges that we make in life, it's our life. We just want to share our story so it can motivate you. So do you have any last words or final thoughts you want to give our viewers before we go?
Well, I think, first off, I do thank you very much for opening up this platform. I really appreciate it. Definitely would love to talk to you more in the future. And, for everyone else, I always say my ending message is to stay humble, got to make that money. And I will see everyone down the road. And I hope everyone takes that message and runs with it as well, because you got to make that money and go hustle. And have that drive. So stay positive and make that money. That's all I would have to say. But thank you, Rev, very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Hybrid Hustler, man. We will get a chance to talk again. This just the first. This just the beginning of a good thing going on, and we're gonna definitely stay in touch, man. We thank you so much. We honored to have you on the platform today, and they was glad to see something different today out of all the interviews that I'm doing. But the more we do them, the better you get. You just can't just cause you didn't succeed the first time, you just give up. The number one reason back then when I went out of business, was cash flow. More money going out than coming in caused a lot of businesses to close their doors. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You learn from that experience later. You may come back, may not be the same business, but it'll be something else. You learn from that, you grow from that, and you improve from that, ladies and gentlemen. And you got to keep moving. We got to keep motivating people. You just can't be so hard and down on yourself on what others think about you. They may be hating on you because they didn't think about trying it themselves. So that means you were doing the right thing, and keep pushing on. So, ladies and gentlemen, to no further ado, we thank you. I give a salute to my brother here, and everything. He got a gig war challenge with Red. We're going to be doing a Doordash pregame show, myself and Hulk Smash, about who we think will win.
I totally forgot to mention that. I totally apologize. A big competition happening April 29th to May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Definitely looking forward to that. Hopefully you're a team hustler, but definitely appreciate that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate it. I will be putting it in the description box below. I will be I got this to shut down after the live because I want to go ahead and set everything up on the back end and get it to where it's ready for optimization and all of that. And then on the replay, you'll have all the resource information on where to find them at, and you can look at them there. So to no further ado, we'll get ready to end the show. Thank you, thank you, thank you again.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Take it to the streets. Take it to the streets. Take it Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Take care and have a great day. And we thank you, and we'll see you again, my brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Brad.
You're welcome. Thank you.